Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Gina Taylor, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Ratings for Forbes Travel Guide. I'd like to welcome you to the International Luxury Hotel Association's webinar on all-inclusive luxury experiences for the ultra-high net worth individual. We're thrilled to welcome the panelists that we have here today that represent all aspects of the hospitality industry, from villas to yachts to luxury properties across the globe. The all-inclusive experience at the luxury level is one of the fastest growing segments, and there is just so much to talk about. But before we do, I'd like to ask each of our panelists to give an introduction and also to answer a question in about 60 seconds or less. And I'd like to ask, are all-inclusive luxury experiences for the ultra-high net worth individual here to stay? And if I may ask, Milton, do you mind kicking us off?
Thank you. Milton Pedraza, CEO of Luxury Institute. Luxury Institute has been serving luxury goods and services brands for 21 years. We've served over 1,100. We do research, consulting, and education, but our focus is always on the high net worth and the ultra high net worth. We have a network of over 400 families and several thousand individuals who consent to do research, to allow us to do research on behalf of brands and ourselves. And so that's where we get a lot of our insights. And as far as whether all-inclusive is here to stay, I believe it is. It's very convenient. It is a concept that I think has been refined over time. When we say all-inclusive in our research, they go, well, is there a more refined way to say it? Personalized, customized might be a better way. We know that all these families are individual entities. So when we talk about all-inclusive, the questions that come up very often are, well, what if I don't want to do this? What if I don't want to do that? If I don't want to do the spa, are you still going to charge me for it? So there's a concern always is, what does all-inclusive mean? In some cases, there's some things that are so exotic that they're not all-inclusive. So how do we define it for them? And then the other thing I would say is that wealthy individuals, as a group, everyone's an individual, seem to say, I love the concept of all-inclusive. However, I'm okay with a la carte as well. And I'll leave it there just to sum up.
Fantastic. Thank you. Marius, may I turn it over to you?
Absolutely, Gina. Thank you for inviting us. I've been with Marriott International for the last 25 years. In that capacity, I've supported the brand through those 25 years. I started my career as a telephone operator of the Ritz-Carlton New Orleans in pre-opening, and after which I moved through various leadership positions in North America, in China, and in Indonesia for about 15 years. The last 15 years, I've spent supporting the Ritz-Carlton brand through various corporate roles, which has essentially led me to this current position, supporting Marriott's international expansion into the yacht market and the sea. Marriott International is very bullish on the ultra high net worth all-inclusive. We're currently working on 3 adjacencies in this space. And we have tented camps, resorts, and of course, yachts. Strategically partnering with strong owners like our current yacht owner, Oaktree Capital Management, really allows us to expand rapidly while driving a world-class guest experience. I'm proud to say that 60 minutes ago, I walked out of an official handover ceremony between the Ritz-Carlton Yacht Collection and our shipyard, Chantiers d'Atlantique, here in France. We have now taken ownership of our second all-inclusive yacht, which is ready for guests in 7 weeks.
Wonderful. Congratulations on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And actually, I'll turn it over to you, Francois.
Hello, Gina. Thanks for having me. I'm François Baudin. I'm the Chief Business Officer for Ennismore Immersive Resorts, which include Banyan Tree as well as our all-inclusive collection. We went into all-inclusive business in 2016 when we did the acquisition of the Rixos hotel brand, and which is in the luxury space of the all-inclusive. So, of course, we operate, very large resorts, but also we have a component which many built with villas and executive suite product. So we are also targeting, the high net worth individual. It's a very, very growing segment, in our market. And we see that as a success, and we see an enormous demand and growth in demand. So it's definitely here to stay. And we are working very hard on the programming in order to fulfill the expectation of this market segment. So it's definitely a good business, a business which is growing very fast in different markets, in the world. We are principally today operating in the Middle East, in Turkey and in Egypt, where our hotels are, but we are making now our first move into Central America, in Mexico, in Cancun in particular. And we are starting with very high-end luxury products there. So I'll pass on to my colleagues.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Scott, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you. Scott Tabor, Senior Vice President, Global Hospitality for Four Seasons Hotels and Resorts. And similar to Marius, my career has come through the properties, worked around the world with Four Seasons, and now in the corporate office where I oversee the guest experience outside of our restaurants and bars, security and safety, spa and wellness, and our digital products, as well as I lead up our operations for our private jet, which is an all-inclusive product and something that we're quite proud of. As to the question about whether it's here to stay, for sure, we know that these types of travelers are looking for seamless travel. They're looking for safety. They're looking for something that's highly customizable. And I share Milton's opinion there that they need a name change. It for sure, the all-inclusive sometimes it's not always considered luxury, but for sure our guests want to have that single decision to make for this type of travel. And for sure we'll continue to evolve and find new ways to give it to them.
Wonderful. Thank you, Scott. And it's actually a great transition because we want to go ahead and get started with the discussion now. But Scott, you mentioned it, and Milton, you did as well, that sometimes there's some misconceptions or almost some negativity considering that phrase all-inclusive. So what we'd like to talk about now is, with this significant increase in the travel markets, especially when it comes to all-inclusive, what are some of the misconceptions and what are some of the trends that we're seeing? So Francois, I'd love to have you kick us off with that first question on what we're seeing.
Yeah, I think the misconception comes from, the perception that all-inclusive is related to mass market or cheap destination and also low rates. So I think, this is probably the trend which was developed, in the 70s, 80s, when there was very large resort, developed in the south of Europe, for instance. But this perception has changed. There is a significant evolution, and we have seen that, when we acquired Rixos, where Rixos, was taking the model pretty closer to what Club Mediterranean was doing at the time, where you had a very high level entertainment, sports activity for the guests. So this is where the shift, started, and where, we could have the perception of giving to the customers also a very high level of F&B, as well as a high level of kids activities. So I think all this put together, has given a very different product to the market. So this is where, we added to it a villa segment, which is targeting the very high net worth individual, which want to benefit from both worlds, which is a world of, having a very exclusive product, in the villa product, as well as the access to all the entertainment activities. So we have to be careful between, I would say, the wording of all-inclusive versus a full board. So a full board is more a commercial approach that certain, competitors have, and the all-inclusive where you really want to give a package of activities as well as, the full board. So this is where we make the distinction on the product.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I know, Scott, you touched on that as well, the level of personalization. I'll turn it over to you as well for some insight.
Sure. Yeah, what we're seeing here, a trend is the increase in demand for this type of luxury travel. So for our private jet, for those that may not know, it's a custom Airbus 321neo wide body that has been personally customized by our team that does these private trips around the world, bucket list destinations, most of them at Four Seasons hotels, taking 48 of our guests. It's got 48 lie flat first class seats. And what we've seen is pre-pandemic, we were doing 4 trips a year. That's doubled now. We're doing 8 trips this year with plans to expand that even more. And the interesting thing that we're seeing is that we're having more of our guests fly privately to take our private jet trip. And I know it's something Milton and I were talking about. The increase in private travel, our private aviation, is of course been a big impact from the pandemic. And for that to be more commonly available, but also for the expectations for that type of customizable on-demand service is something that that traveler is looking for, and for us to make sure that we provide.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Marius, did you want to weigh in as well on what we're seeing in
Thank
trend?
you, Gina. Yeah, absolutely. Marriott International have about 190 million Marriott Bonvoy members, which for us has provided outstanding data on travel trends. When we started peeling back the layers a little bit, we realized that about 50% of our ultra high net worth guests have experienced all-inclusive growing up, or generally have a quite positive sentiment towards all-inclusive. They have positive experiences from the childhood, maybe back in the 70s or the 80s, when all-inclusive became more prevalent, but more in the mass market segment. Now, these guests have grown up, become successful entrepreneurs, business owners, and executives. So now they're looking for a more curated experience with the bespoke offerings, focus on wellness. They want to focus on world-class chefs. And then we pair that with our famous Ritz-Carlton service culture. We're building to fulfill these needs essentially, and that's really where we see that we can move into a somewhat untapped market in this space, and guests are very excited about it. The Ritz-Carlton Annual Collection, the first ship of Rima, which launched in 22, I think is a perfect example of this all-inclusive success story. What we've seen on board is that 60% of our guests are highly engaged with the Ritz-Carlton brand. But they're also first time to yachting or cruising for that matter. So what we think we're doing here is not the shift and lift from the competitor. We're really developing a new customer segment in this untapped market. So for us, we definitely think this is on the rise. I think this is a new market for everybody on today's panel. And I think there's a large opportunity here if done correctly.
Thank you. Absolutely. And it's really what we're talking about in our next question. We're talking about really how is this guest helping to evolve? And as you said, it's an untapped market in many respects. And how are they helping us to evolve? And are we seeing a stronger interest from certain demographics? Milton, you touched on this when you gave your introduction. So I'd love to turn it to you about, who is this guest and what are they looking for when it comes to these experiences?
Well, certainly I would say the 50 plus is just a ready-made market. A lot of empty nesters, a lot of couples, sometimes even singles, who want to have a friction-free, safe, all-encompassing kind of experience. They don't want to touch their wallets. They don't very often necessarily want to leave the resort or in this case, the vessel, but they want to have all these extraordinary experiences that are delivered to them, whether it's food, drink, or what I would call connoisseurship, learning salons, experiences. So those people very much, but I would also say that the successful luxury brands target not a demographic, but a mindset. And the mindset is there for younger people, for the millennials, for the Gen Zs, for the Gen Xers, as well as the boomers. There's a mindset that you can tap into that loves this friction-free, seamless, all immersive experiences. And so I think that it can appeal as long as you have the mindset and of course the affordability. I think everyone is a target market. And I think they're all eager to see, very often it's not that I don't love the, let's call it all-inclusive or all-immersive experience. It's that I want to know what's on the itinerary. One of the things that they say when they're getting on the vessel or before, in the booking or pre-booking experiences, and what are the experiences going to be, right? Not so much on the food and the drink or maybe even entertainment, but how do I fill the time when I'm not in port? And so that's one of the key questions that they have. But I think those can be answered very easily by creative brands such as the ones we have here.
That's fantastic. I love that you said thinking about the really tailoring to the mindset, not just the guest, but the mindset. Marius, may I turn it over to you with that same thought in mind? How is the guest helping us evolve?
Thank you, Gina. I think both Scott and Milton have touched upon this. I couldn't agree more. I think the key here is time. Time is very precious for everyone. And the best thing the Ritz-Carlton can offer is to inspire life's most meaningful journeys through unique and curated experiences that they can enjoy through with their travel party. So the idea here is to Milton's and Scott's point earlier, to give people time. You also give the guy to be flexible. So what you're booking today might very much change when you're in the moment, and then your needs might change when you're booking something today versus when you're traveling in 3, 6, 9 months ago from now. For us, the Ritz-Carlton Yacht Collection is really a resort at sea, and we try to create a unique experience where, to Milton's point earlier, where guests don't necessarily want to leave the ship; they want to stay on board the ship while they're in port. So allowing the guests the opportunity to enjoy tranquility, to enjoy space, privacy, combined with world-class cuisine and a spa while waking up in a new destination every morning is a very attractive offering in this space. We also look at the age, and it was mentioned earlier, the average age, and it's right on. We see our average guest on board is 52 years old, predominantly North American, while the average in the industry is significantly higher, with an average age of 64. So we see that there's wealth. A lot of the guests are still employed or somewhat semi-retired, and they're looking for a place to escape, unwind, and enjoy themselves, and to use their time effectively. All these guests have very successful, exciting lives, but we need to take the best thing we can give them is to honor their time off that they've given us, and really ensure that we take that seriously and deliver on every aspect of the service experience.
Wonderful. Thank you. Francois, I wanted to turn the question over to you as well on how the guest is changing the landscape for us and what's the demographic.
Well, I concur with Marius on when he says that we don't want the guests to leave the ship, and they don't want to leave the ship. So I'm always comparing our resort, which has quite sizable, to a cruise ship, where you're gonna have, a very VIP section, which would be our villa product. Those customers, high net worth, are usually, looking for privacy. Yes, they're looking for exclusivity, but they're also looking for entertainment. Our customers' demographic is, very much towards the GCC market and also Russian market. We have a lot of families, and the families, have really the intention of getting the kids, activated. So, with a lot of entertainment, towards the kids. So we are focusing on this part of the business. So on one side, we will provide a butler service with a very specific dedicated service for this type of clientele. And then on another side, they will have an exclusive access to the entertainment, to special trainers for sport activity, to extended spa, where they don't have to wait for the treatment. So all these activities has been tailored toward, this customer segment as well. So they benefit, from the size of the resort, which is providing, a lot of variety of activities, very, very large kids club, edutainment, etc. But on another side, they have also their privacy in their villa with a dedicated service, as butler service. So we are trying to serve both worlds, but the access, I would say, to the extent of the activity we are giving through our programming is a very, very important point for them, because we manage to give a different programming, every night, with a lot of shows, a lot of spectaculars, but also access to a lot of activities every day different, with a specific program for a week stay.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I love the transition from what we look at the resorts at sea to the resorts on land, and how we're really saying the same thing, but in a different context. Scott, you talked about this with private aviation, the changes that you've seen pre-pandemic to post-pandemic. And I just wanted to make sure before we moved on, you had a chance to talk about the guests again and how it's evolving.
Sure, sure. And what we're seeing, of course, is a generation that is looking for these incredible experiences as their most important souvenir they take back from their travel. Either they're sharing it as they travel or they're taking it back to talk about when they get home. And our concierges around the world and our guest experience managers on our properties work very hard to bring this to life, to find those unique experiences that really only our hotels can create through the connections that they have with the community. And we work very hard to provide this on the private jet as well. And as Marius said, time is such a critical piece to this. And it's time, but the true luxury is that you can decide up until the last minute about what you want to do. And this is something that really comes to life with our private jet, where we have a Four Seasons chef, we have a Four Seasons concierge, we have Four Seasons journey manager, all there on the plane that can quickly make those changes. You want to change something in or out, and to be able to customize it even more and elevate the experience. And it leads to a 33% return bookings for us on the private jet. So we've got one couple that have taken 7 of our trips, which is simply amazing, and continues to show the importance of those experiences.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank you. We're going to go on to the next questions. And actually, it's from Forbes Travel Guide too, as we look at strategic partnerships, and even just one of our focus for the next summit that we're having is about these partnerships and where travel, meets luxury. A lot of you touched on the fact that, what you're doing with food and beverage and entertainment, and how you're really bridging the gap from, having something that's a little bit cookie cutter to something that's truly bespoke and customized. So I'd love to get your point of view on, those partnerships when it comes to children's programming and celebrity chefs. What are you doing to make it more enticing for this individual? So actually, Marius, I'd love to start with you to give us a point of view on this.
Thank you, Gina. This is a loaded question. There's a lot in there, so I'll try to keep it short and to the point. But yeah, a strategic combination of partnerships along with in-house core programming has proven to really work very well for the Ritz-Carlton Yacht Collection. And our own programming within Marriott Bonvoy CRM is proven a very effective marketing tool for us also, along with partnerships from our chef Sven Elverfeld, the 3-star Michelin chef, 15 years in a row at the Ritz-Carlton Wolfsburg, Fabio Trabocci with his restaurants in Washington, D.C., Michael Mina. In addition to our large team of culinary leaders who work really on location-specific menus to ensure we optimize the use of local ingredients while at the same time pushing, developing, and evolving local traditions, while at the same time trying to lower the carbon footprints. We will never be a ultra luxury resort. We will never be an amusement park, right? We will be a luxury resort at sea. So our strategy here is really focused on developing enriching programs that allows the guests to disembark after a week or 10 days on board, richer in a capacity, a mental capacity, richer in a spiritual capacity, richer from a wellness capacity. And we try to pair this then, of course, also with world-class entertainment. But to Scott's point earlier, to leave guests with these souvenirs of enrichment and well-being and a little bit of bragging rights also to come home and say they had a phenomenal experience is truly one of the most important things we can provide our guests.
Wonderful, thank you. And as we know, that this experience is generally priced higher, and then even just thinking in terms of that, what are you adding on to it? I think that's fantastic. Thank you very much. I'd like to actually give the same question to you, Scott, in terms of strategic partnerships and what's working for the Four Seasons brand.
Sure. And look, we have many partnerships that the guest sees and many that they don't see. And the properties, one of the natural partnerships is to have the luxury retail, which is a very natural partnership, which we've done. And we've had some really great pop-ups this year in our properties. We've done a program with Christian Dior in our Nam Hai property and the Dior Riviera at Nam Hai, with some great resort activation, with a number of items and some cool experiences. some workshops on the secrets of perfume fragrances and a special tasting with the Moët ambassador. We also had Dolce & Gabbana at our Four Seasons Taormina, where they've done the Blue Mediterraneo with umbrellas, towels, cushions, everything all over, and a great granita trolley to take in some nice icy treats underneath the Sicilian sun. And of course, you know, Taormina has been the darling of our company for a while now, thanks to the success of the HBO show White Lotus. And so we appreciate that partnership, which, you know, that was another amazing thing that came out of the pandemic with the hotel closed in Maui. They said, hey, we want to do this show. And so what a huge win-win for us to be able to do that in those two properties. More to come too.
More to come. Absolutely. Thank you. And then similar to that, Francois, you had mentioned about how you have to scale, you know, what's happening in the villas, but also taking advantage of what your resorts have to offer for those guests too. So can you talk to us a little bit about that in relation to the strategic partnerships and how you're really making that package much more appealing to the guest, the luxury guest?
Yeah, I think our approach is particularly due to our scale because our resort are, you know, between 500 and 1,000 keys. So the level of expenditure on the cost side, you know, for the entertainment and the activities is pretty high. We are absorbing $1.5 to $2 million per property per year in entertainment itself. So some properties, like if you have a property of 1,000 keys, which will have its villa section as well, we'll probably have 100, 150 colleagues, which are only dedicated to spectaculars and shows, and also providing entertainment to the kids, you know, in the kids club. We have design and master plan kids club between 5,000 to 12,000 square meters, which are really like a city, where you're going to have different type of activity, entertainment, etc. A little bit like Kidzania, if you know the concept. So, which is providing, you know, a full day entertainment for the kids, you know, at different age, also segments. So we are focusing on that. As I said to you, we have a lot of families. So, and also, you know, families from the GCC and families from Eastern Europe with quite a lot of kids. So the kids are the one dragging the parents back to the resort, which is a good strategy. But we also focus, you know, on activities, sports activities, where we have sometimes some partnership, you know, with some trainers. And then also we have the partnership we have developed with any small platform of F&B, where we enhance, you know, our offering in F&B with specialty restaurants, you know, which are based on the concept that we are bringing now from any small. It could be Karma, Filia, etc. So this type of restaurants that we have developed successfully, you know, through the ex-SB, you know, hotels, SLS, Mondrian, etc. So we are bringing all these elements into our resort to make, you know, an attractive offer for the high-end customers as well. So it's you know, it's all a question of the magic of I would say all-inclusive is how you can control your costs, you know, towards offering a very extensive panel of activities every day. You have people, you know, staying from 5 to 12 days sometimes on site. So you don't provide them the same entertainment every day. You need to have a very, very big list of activities every day. And this is what we are successfully doing, you know, in our resorts.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Incredible perspective and ideas, and especially around the globe in so many different ways to think about it. And I know the one question that we do keeps coming up, or the one topic that keeps coming up, is that level of personalization. And I know, Scott, you did talk about this a bit, and we can just touch on this. And I'd like you and Milton to both weigh in on, you know, the fact that for this to be the all-inclusive experience to be successful with this particular guest, we have to think about how highly customizable it can be, that it's frictionless, as we talked about, but also, you know, what is the luxurious base package that we tailor to this group? And then also, how do we layer in technology? How does technology play a role? And, you know, maybe even some challenges that you may have had as you've evolved the all-inclusive experience. So Scott, do you mind just talking about that side of it too, the technology piece, and just how you're making it more customizable?
Sure. Yeah. And look, technology is the engine behind our team's ability to provide truly customized service today. Our guests, they expect us to remember a lot about them. And of course, when they walk in the door, we need to welcome them back to the brand. And of course, there's many challenges of being in many different countries and people traveling under, different ways that they may book their travel, which we all know. That being said, we have a great CRM platform that our properties are able to use to build great profiles on our guests and to be able to bring those to life. And this comes to life quite nicely with the private jet, where we're traveling across 10 to 15 hotels and being able to advance the specific information that we'd want to have ready for the guest at the next journey. And even though we have a team traveling with them, it's still great that we can be able to seamlessly be able to provide those critical things that the guest is looking for. And look, and technology is something that our guests want to have easier ways. The seamless part, right? What is the seamless? What is the easiest way for the guest? And it's fascinating with our app. We put a lot of effort in there to develop a great app that's very customer centric. The most popular thing just is chat, right? People just love our chat platform in 111 different languages that is, 24/7 monitored by our team, and just the great personal response that comes from that platform. And 80% of our chats are responded to in 90 seconds or less, and our teams take quite pride in that. They compete to be the top hotel to have the fastest response. And look, the platform itself is not the success. It's there's a person behind it that's caring about the answer and caring to take care of the individual. And for the guests, it's easy. They don't have to worry about who to talk to. They just send it in the chat, and magic will happen for them.
I love that. And the fact that you're talking about the personalization behind it, that it's not only efficient and it meets an incredible need, but yet it's got that level of personalization. And Milton, I know you have a lot to say about this side of everything. So I'd love to turn it to you on personalization technology and what you're seeing as well.
Thank you. I'll start with technology, and I will echo what Scott just said. To me, the technology, and to consumers, the technology is for taking rote tasks, eliminating them so that the human beings who work with the brand can be the best humans that they can. And as Scott said, care more in different new ways, and they can be more immersed in the guest. So that's one. Eliminate the rote tasks, eliminate the friction. Obviously, the communication is easier, as Scott just described. The way that in our research, high net worth and ultra high net worth consumers describe it is that there are three communities that the brands can help create in any resort. And in all-inclusive, I think even more prevalent. First community is the fellow guests. Who are they, and how can I create community and relationships with them? Not forced, but seamlessly, naturally. And I think the curation of the brand in that particular endeavor is very important. The second community, if you will, or communal space, is with the crew, with the staff. And that is a very obviously important community to cement so that I can remember the person, the people who work with me, not serve me, but who engage with me and whom I want to go back to. As I think it was Francois who alluded to, the kids want to go back. Probably as much for people as they do for activities. And then the third community is when you're off the vessel, in port. How can there be a communal creation? And of course, those three intersect. But that humanity, that human connection, is very much what we see in our research and from brands that people bring back with them as their treasured memories. So the activity, yes. The people and the personalities and the human touch and the personal communications and all of those human connections are so important in making these treasured memories. So I know that all the leaders that we're speaking with are aware, but it's something I want to emphasize because that's what the consumers tell us. I have all the money in the world. What do I need? Trusted, joyful relationships.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that. That really that's got us to a great closing point, because I think we've really covered so much great content here. but I'd love to give each of you some time just to leave us with a forecast that, what can we expect in 2025 and beyond when it comes to the high net worth individual and traveling through our all-inclusive world that we just spoke about. Marius, I'm going to turn it to you to just give us a quick forecast and what that looks like for 2025 and beyond.
Thank you, Gina. Before I do, I just want to acknowledge Scott's app and the chat functionality. I've tried it and it's phenomenal. So hats off to you and the team. It hurts us to say that, but it's very good. So congratulations, Scott.
Thank you.
That being said, so as I mentioned earlier, Marriott International is bullish, very bullish on the all-inclusive alternate high worth. We have ILHA, our second ship, as I mentioned, starting to sail in 7 weeks. And we have a Vrima already in the water since 2022 with 149 cabins, currently enjoying the Mediterranean. So for 2025, June 3rd, 2025, we take delivery of our third ship, Luminara, which will be focused in the Asia Pacific region. So in 2025, our forecast is that the Ritz-Carlton Yacht Collection will have very much a global reach for the ultra-net high worth guests. Will be in Northern Europe, the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, and Asia Pacific. And everybody's welcome to join us. So I look forward to seeing everybody on board. Thank you, Gina.
Fantastic. Thank you, Scott. I'll turn it to you. And that was a very kind acknowledgement of the app.
No.
So
Thank you, Marius, and congratulations on your ships coming both starting now and coming to Asia, which is great for you to be able to have that global capability. And look, for sure, we are continuing to focus in this space and provide these incredible journeys on the Four Seasons private jet. We're looking for more, and with 33% return, the demand is we need more trips, even for the guests who've been in the past, let alone those that want to do in the future. We've had some really good success with shorter trips, with 2-week trips in addition to our 3+ week trips, and continue to find ways to make these find experiences that will really generate this type of interest. The personalized service is for sure a trend that will become even more important. To Milton's point, the technology is going to become even more overwhelming. The bots and the AI that's going to start flooding our guests with ideas and itineraries and things along those lines, they're going to just try and say, okay, who can part this wave of information and help me to understand what's best for me? And so that type of personalized attention for our private jet, with our dedicated concierge, guest experience manager, and chef for when they travel, but then even in our hotels with our guest experience managers and our concierges, how do we continue to provide that right insight for our guests? And yes, let's have all the other minutia getting taken care of by the AI, but really at the end of the day, how do I connect with someone? And for us to be able to provide that personalized service is something that we've always prided ourselves in. It's something Four Seasons is dedicated to. And so hopefully it will create more opportunities for the luxury brands to differentiate.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Thank you. Milton, if you had a crystal ball and you're forecasting into 2025 and beyond, what do we expect to see?
Yeah, I think my 3 predictions are pretty easy. So prediction number 1 is someone is going to step up and rename this from all-inclusive to something much better and more refined and sophisticated. All immersive, I don't know, because I'm not a creative genius. I leave it up to these 3 brilliant brands and teams to do so, but I think someone's going to step up and rename it so that they can either own it and differentiate themselves. But I think the name is sort of like buy one, get one free. You're not going to use that in luxury. So all-inclusive has connotations that I think we can go beyond. That's number 1. Number 2, I think there's a lot of other segments. And I spoke to several travel advisors in New York the other day, and they said to us, what about single women traveling alone? Mm-hmm. What about single men? What about groups, teams? What about the fact there's a billionaire, I have a good friend like that, who gathers her girlfriends from all over the world, wives, single women, and they all travel to Morocco on a private jet, et cetera, et cetera. Why can't we do that in these venues? So other segments that are going to be very important that we're not thinking about the loneliness, the human needs of very wealthy people. So I think that's what. And the other one I think is what Four Seasons is already doing, and I don't know, you probably are doing it, where it's end to end. It's not, it doesn't start when you get to the vessel, right? And Four Seasons has extended that out to the transportation, but it should start right at your door and it should end right at your door, that you have an all-inclusive experience. Those are my three.
I love that. Literally door to door and frictionless. Thank you. And Francois, I'll turn it to you for some closing comments and a forecast for 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, I think, and I relate also to the discussion on technology. I think our customers, and particularly the high net worth individual, have access to a lot of technology at their own home. You know, they are used to have everything, you know, at their disposal. And the same for entertainment, they have access to the highest level of entertainment. You know, it's very easy for them to travel somewhere and see a show, you know, or a concert, or, you know, bring their kids to the latest theme park, etc. So it forces us to innovate all the time. We have to be on top of our game. And again, for me, the keyword is programming. We are very working very hard on, you know, our programming and trying to find, you know, what will be the next generation demands. You know, in terms of technology, as an example, we have created in one of our kids club an esports, you know, cafe for the kids, which is extremely popular, you know, for these kids. So as I was saying before, you know, our family-driven market is bringing, you know, the families back, you know, because the kids have, you know, really enjoyed what we could provide to them, even if in their own homes they have a lot. But, you know, sharing that, you know, community sometimes is something different. So this is all this aspect we are looking at. We have a 32% repeat customer ratio, which is very high for the resort segment, and we want to keep it. So it you know, push us every day to innovate more and more. So I think the key is really innovation and programming for us, and continuing, you know, bringing to the luxury segment of the all-inclusive something very special, something that our competitor has not offered yet. And this is how we can, you know, keep on top of our game.
Wonderful. Thank you for the closing insight. Thank you to everyone. So Francois, Milton, Marius, Scott, thank you for being part of this panel and for such incredible insight and expertise. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining us at the International Luxury Hotel Association's webinar series and for being present today. And
Thank you
wish
for having
you
us.
all a wonderful end of summer.
Thanks, Gina. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great weekend.